Ah, look at that. Spinning. Look at how that spins. My name's Chris, and I'm the fun uncle. Steer away from the car. That was awesome. Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm the fun uncle. Let me teach you about an old logging toy that my grandfather taught me about when I was little. Something anybody can make. So the first thing we need is you want to find a piece of vine maple or some other kind of a hardwood, something that's hard. So up here in the Northwest, we have something called vine maple. And while this is a pretty good one here, a little bit harder to get to, I'm going to go out my driveway a little more, see if we can find a better piece. Actually, that one right there looks pretty good. It's about the right, you want it a little smaller than your thumb, like your pinky finger for if you're a full adult. But I'm going to take this one right here, and I am just going to cut it off right near the base of this tree. And instead of cutting it, I'm just going to score it so that I can just bend it and break it. Hard to do this with one hand. There we go. Done. Now I've got my piece. It's pretty long. I don't need that much. I'm only going to use a small portion of it. Well, maybe we'll make 2 or 3 out of it. But you want a piece that's about 1/2 inch across at least. That's going to be good for the propeller. All right. So you get yourself a good seat, good comfortable place to live. I'm sitting out on my deck near the creek. Perfect atmosphere for this kind of a project. So I'll tell you a little bit about this while I'm making it. We'll see how far we get, or if I ended up fast forwarding this video. So start out with your stick. The most important part of the stick, though, is probably going to be the propeller, and that's going to be your biggest area. You want your widest dimension. And I think I'm going to make my stick right through here. I think this is a good propeller area through here. So I'm going to chisel out that area right here. That's about the right width. You know, you only want it length of your thumb. And then I'm going to knock all the branches off in it. So I'll see if I can do this so you can see it. I'll try to watch the camera angle every now and then. Now you can see I'm using just a box cutter. Any kind of knife will work. Obviously, people used to use their pocket knives when they did this in the early times. So let's talk about the history of this thing a little bit. If I can do this without chopping myself up. This is a toy that originally was created by, I'm going to say, the Appalachian loggers, I think is where it came from, like Kentucky, Virginia, etc. But I believe it also transferred out here to the Northwest. And primarily it was forgotten about for a long time. There are some accounts of people that talk about seeing them in the 50s or 60s with their grandfather. Usually it's a grandfather teaching people how to do these. So I guess I'm over 50. I could be a grandpa. So now I'm teaching you. So anyways, let's see. Let's start cutting. We got our branches cut off. Now let's actually take this all the way down. So way back in the days, the story goes, or as it goes, people moved around a lot. So they needed toys that were, because the logging companies always went to a new stand of trees, or there wasn't a firm, a constant place where you could always go down to the store and get something. You had to go where the work went. So people wanted something that they could do fairly easily with a limited amount of tools. All I got here is a knife, right? And you had to entertain yourself a little bit by the fire, After people got done in a hard day's work, they didn't want something too strenuous. You had to be able to do it pretty easily. And a sharp knife is something that everybody came by because that's an essential tool, something sharp. And so very often a husband might bring their wives on the trail with, or, an uncle might create this for a niece or a nephew or something like that, because a lot of toys weren't there to be had. So, as I understand it, these were often made by the campfire at night. And usually this is going to be 18th and 19th centuries, which is going to be from, the 1800s to 1900s. So logging really didn't kick off big until at least here in the Northwest. It was going to be, 1860s might be the first ones through. I'm thinking the logging camps that I know of, most of the major logging started happening right at the turn of the century. Number one, when you're using a knife, yes, I'm cutting down towards my leg. Not good, don't do it. I'm doing it because I'm being very controlled about it, and I've had a little bit of experience. Okay, so the easy way, number one, I like to use maple for this because our vine maple is good. You can also use other things. I just create a notch around the end. And when you create a small notch, then you can just bend it back and forth, and it will slowly, you can hear everything breaking free. There, it's free. Now, all we got to do is clean up this end a little bit. You can see we're just notching off the end to make it nice and clean. It's okay that the bark and the cambium, or whatever you want to call it, I can't remember the correct term, is still on it. Make a nice round end, so now there's no sharp edges on it. Looks like just to make it clean, I'll go all the way along this, and I'll take the bark off this thing too. I'm just scraping it right now. That works too. Scraping it's nice because it only takes off. You don't get down into the meat wood. You can control how much you take off. A little harder to scrape around the knots. Just do your best. It doesn't have to be rocket science. Some people like to use dead wood, meaning the tree's not alive. You get a little better vibration through it. Yeah, so these toys were very popular turn of the century for kids because they're super easy to do. Usually Grandpa would make this for them. And then they kind of fell away, the Industrial Revolution came around and real toys were available, usually made of like metal trucks or something like that. And then everybody has to have the newest and best for their kids because we love them so much, right? So this was kind of forgot about. But then the 60s came around, 50s and 60s, and the 60s especially was kind of a throwback to folk style stuff. Well, I was just thinking about this, so I'm not a product of the 50s or the 60s. I was just after that. But my parents, my dad read about this one time and brought up this, and I think my grandfather had talked about this at one time too. So I thought, what better way to make a video and bring this back, or try to bring it back. Okay, all scraped, nice and clean, good, easy. Next thing we're going to do is we got to make our propeller, because the propeller is kind of key to everything. So I'm going to go around here and I'm going to do the same thing that I did over here where we cut it off, but I'm going to notch it out. Actually, I want a clean one. I don't want this knot in the middle of it, so I'm going to make a totally brand new one. And this is going to take a little bit because I have no leverage to lever this thing off with. I could so easy cheat and just go get a lopper and cut it. Ah, but what's the fun in that, right? This is something I'm supposed to be a backwoods Virginian, cutting this thing out for his son or daughter. Well, I tell you, I keep getting flashes of me going down into my knee with this thing. Okay, well, so what's the goal with this? I guess the goal is to try to create a toy that you can create in an hour. And I'm already at the 10-minute mark. Of course, I've been doing a lot of BSing as I do. I haven't been really serious with this yet. We shall see here. Boom, look at that. Haha. Just got to keep working at it. All right. Now we're going to do the same thing on this end. I'm going to get rid of this knot first. And this one here, so rather than cut off the other side and make it hard to hold, here's a key trick. Keep the stem on it, use it like a work holding piece, and we're going to carve this flat all the way down. Our goal is to make two flat sides, and they can be 1/8 of an inch. The propeller can be 1/8 of an inch in diameter, or excuse me, in width, thickness. The width, I want to use the whole piece of wood here. Just so you don't accidentally do too much. Turn over and whittle on the other side some. I mean, it's not a race. I guess it is a race if you talk about me trying to get it done in an hour. But this isn't a race, right? I used to make these, so I kind of know the best techniques. I've sort of done a couple things. This was a technique that I decided was better a long time ago. Otherwise, I used to do it without a work holding technique. This is actually a trick we use in the machining industry too. Don't cut off all your work holding material. Leave some on so you can grab onto it. Alright, it's looking pretty good. See, it's starting to get thinner. We're still about 1/4 of an inch. We need to get down to a good 1/8 of an inch. Maybe even 3/16 would be better. Okay, we're getting a little thin on the bottom there, so we'll go towards the top. This doesn't have to be precision. Okay, be real careful going backwards like this. Because this is, especially if you're not blocking yourself. You don't want that knife hitting you. Okay, still haven't taken care. It looks like this edge up here needs some attention. Just keep taking care of it a little bit at a time. Once we have this propeller done, there's only 2 more hard spots to do on this whole thing. Alright. Getting closer. Now it's even. Let's start getting it down. Oh, we got this side's taken down more, so you can see how this side's been cut more into it than this side, so we're going to take it all from this side, the rest of it. we like to have the heart, I like to have the center of the propeller be right out of the center of the wood, of the stick. However, I kind of don't think it matters to do the mechanics of it. I'm not too worried about it. But just for symmetrical reasons, I'll do it. Huh. You can even see the grain in this piece coming up here. Let's see if I can go close enough where you can see it. Oh, it's not going to show up. But this stick is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. It took 7 years for this thing to grow, for this branch to grow. Pretty cool. We have pretty fast growing though out here in the Northwest. We're just about good here. I think I'm ready to call it. One advantage of going thinner, it makes boring the hole through the center a lot easier. Now, I've heard of, I haven't ever seen it, but I've heard of people cheating and using a nail. You know what? We're going to do it the old-fashioned way. This is going to be all wood, no nails, and it's just going to be old-school knife action. Next thing, the end of this propeller is kind of square. I'm going to try to round it off a little bit. Now, I've seen some people do propellers. In fact, I usually did this too. I left it at sharp points and it wasn't a nice rounded edge. The shape of the end of the propeller makes no difference. The most important thing is that the hole is sort of in the center, and I just want it a little bit round so it looks good there. Let's take off the bark like we did on the rest of it so we have some uniformity. Ooh, that's looking a little fat there. I'm going to take that down a little bit. It's all about feel, how you feel right. There's almost no bad way to do it. As long as it spins in the end, who cares? And we don't know if it's going to spin yet, right? Because I haven't made one of these in a long time. But come to think about it, I think I first started making these maybe when I was 10 or so. And I don't think I've ever had one of these fail on me. All right, next most important thing. So I'm going to just take a guess of where I'm going to make the end of this at. And I'm going to say, I'm going to make it right about here, and I'm going to score a line. And the only reason that I am scoring this line, well, two things. It's going to be a break point later, but it's a measurement point. So between these two places, you can see, oops, sorry, can't see my line that I made here. There we go, see my line? Now, right in the dead middle, I'm going to put my hole there. And so, to make this line, make sure I get in view a little bit here. You take your spot halfway through it, and you pick your point that looks like it's about in the middle. And then I'm not pushing hard, I'm just barely pushing it, but I'm spinning my knife. See how that works? I'm just spinning it, just enough to get started. And I'm kind of rocking it around towards the knife edge of it. So once you get it started, then you can push a little harder. And the other thing too is you notice that it'll want to cut into the grain. And so when you're going around it, like my hardest cuts are going to be going away from the grain. So like here, I'm cutting across the grain, and then it's going to try to start digging up the grain. So you got to remember where the grain is going at. And you're just going around and putting a hole through it. Just rocking back and forth. One other thing is, even if you make this hole and it's off, like it's off to one end or another, and even if it's off to the side, you can always cut your propeller down a little bit. Now the whole thing here is I'm trying to make this, and it's okay if this gets a little big, because ultimately this hole wants to be a little on the loose side. But my end goal, I'm going to be making a hole in it that'll probably fit something about this twig. So that's about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little less. And so you can see this hole is starting to get, there you can see the hole there. Come on, where is it? Focus point. Boop, there it is. And it's not quite through yet. I can't feel it coming out the other side, but it'll come out pretty quick. It doesn't take much. Just rocking it back and forth. I'm going to cut these. You'll notice that it'll start throwing up hairs. So then I'm going to cut the hairs off of it. That's what having the sharp knife is good for, because the hairs don't really do anything. You got to keep working the knife, work the blade. If you want the hole to travel, it'll travel to wherever the sharp edge of the blade is. So, for example, let's say my hole is getting off center. I want it to go that way. I take the knife edge and I work it that way, and it'll travel. Ideally, so because this knife doesn't have a sharp point, it should be through already, but it isn't. So this is going to take a little while on this bad boy because I'm not using the proper knife. But you got to use what you got, and this was just what was available for me at the time. All right, there, we're coming through it. It's poking through. I can actually feel it with my finger right there. Now, once you get some little witness of poking through, come through the back side of the hole. On the other way, find that hole, go back through it. Okay, now we're at 19 minutes. I only have 10 minutes left before I'm at a half an hour, so what was I? Oh, we got to do an hour. I'm good, I'll get this thing done. I might even get this done in a half an hour. We'll see. See how this goes. This is the most time-consuming process right here. You got to take your time with this. You don't want this part to go too fast and split your propeller. Yeah, I'm actually having to travel my hole a little bit here to keep it in the center. As long as you see little pieces coming out, you know you're making progress. It's when you don't see little pieces coming out, it's like, all right. But slow and steady wins this race. I'm hardly putting any force on it because, number one, I don't want to stick myself, and number two, I don't want to break the wood, have it separate, because it's pretty thin here. Okay, I just kind of cut in a little bit of a chamfer on the corner there to get rid of the frayed edges. You'll see what I mean. When you try to drill one of these through here with your pocket knife, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, what I'm doing. So all these little burned edges, get my finger out of the way, I don't want to cut that. Once the hole starts opening up, it gets easier to take more chunks out of it. I need glasses. I'm getting close. So there's a key trick, a key reason why I do the hole first. Some people will do the spindle first. Problem with doing the spindle first is then you don't know what size to make the spindle to. So this way, if you do the hole first, you know how big you have to make the spindle. And this is a toy as well that when it first starts, it may not spin really good, but you have to kind of work it in a little bit. Okay. All right, so I've got my little mark here. Now I'm going to take this all the way down so it'll snap off. So I'm going to chase the mark down the edge, and this is so I can hit it from the back side. You can see that it's crooked, it's not straight, right? That's all right. It's not the end of the world. Like I said, this isn't 100% crucial. And yeah, I might be a little bit of a hick when it comes to carving. That's okay, this is a hick game. I like to think of myself as the high-tech redneck, so maybe this will fit me just right. And look at that, snaps right off, boom. Now let's just clean this up a little bit. Ooh, and see, there's our first problem. Look, it's not straight. I've got a small edge over here, so we're going to have to definitely straighten up this propeller. So first things first, straightening up this propeller is going to be a challenge. And that's because I don't have a good way to hold on to it, so I'm holding on to this dumb little thing now. And so since I don't have a good way to hang on to it, also my carving can't use as much gusto because I can't get any good purchase. So there's the problem. And that's what I was trying to fight. Alright, so now I'm going to decide how much I'm going to take off of this thing. Well, this is a fat propeller at this end anyways. So you can see here, we want to take it more off this side over here. Quite a bit more. That's depressing. Alright, so I'm going to do some different techniques to try to chisel this thing down. I'm actually doing kind of a rocking technique, and by doing that, that lets me get some more leverage on this thing. One thing nice about the X-Acto knife, when it comes to this kind of cutting, it's super sharp, so I can go right across the grain of this hard vine maple. Not much trouble. Alright, that's looking better. Let's clean up the splinters on this end, the hair. That's looking better on that end. See, I'm not perfect at this, but you don't have to be. That's the great thing about this. Let's clean this up a little bit more. It's all about feel. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, I'm going to say that's good enough. Making a mess. That's all right. Now, the spindle. This is the second most important. This is the part where our assembly goes together. So whenever we make assemblies and fit are everything. So I'm doing two things here. Now, this is one case where you may not want to have the spindle be in the dead center of this wood, because in the very center of wood you have heartwood. You have kind of like a pithy section sometimes, which is not as strong. So you want to be in the heartwood. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll go more to the outside edge of one of them. But we'll see. So when I'm cutting down through here though, this actually, oh yeah, I can feel it. So my fingernail does go into the very, very center of this. So I'm just doing a test. So yeah, I want to do on the outside edge. So I'm going to go, this is the edge that's closest to the outside. So I'm going to favor that a little bit. And this way I'll cut out the actual heartwood. See right here, Let's see if you can see the heartwood. See the way this line is right here? This is all super soft stuff right here. And we don't want soft stuff as the spindle, even though it probably still would work, but it's going to make it kind of weak. So this is the neck part where it comes to roughing or finishing. We're just roughing out the wood a little bit. Remember, trying to keep in mind where we're trying to have the center of this end at. And I don't know if you can see, but I'm kind of bringing it up and out. And the trick to this is you're actually, even though it's making these little curly cues stick on the outside, I kind of don't want it too much like that, but I'll explain a little bit more of that when we get to it. And the reason is I want to have this end of it be fatter than this end. That means it stays up there. And so I actually have a trick for this. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to whittle this end down now. Now I've got it closer, and we're going to whittle the whole thing down to where it just barely fits into this little propeller we made. And we want it to barely fit in there and not to go and split it, right? So look, you can't, this is just like a good woman, you can't force her because it will not be pretty. Ah, here's a great picture of this pithy wood that I'm talking about right here. So see where let me see if I can get a better view here of it. I can actually carve my finger all the way into that. Yeah, see right there? This is super soft. Yeah, we don't want that. That's not good. So I made the right call with this piece of wood. Oh, here's even a better view of it. Oh man, it's just not showing up good. It looks great from my end. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can swap camera views and make it work, because this is something important. Okay, that's worse. Let's see if we can get something better here. Ah, there we go. That's the view that I was trying to get. Let's go with 3. Boom. Come on. Focus right here. There. There you go. See? That's the stuff you don't want right there. Okay. Now we'll set this bad boy back up. Up. Come on. Wouldn't be anything if I didn't have my little redneck tripod. Alright. So now we'll keep whittling. Okay, I'm going to keep whittling out this center pithy section because I don't want it there. It's not going to help me. It's not going to make it do what I want. Notice I'm just taking very small cuts. This is about precision, not about volume at this point. Got the base here is getting a little bit fat. And it's not as important if you get a little bit too thin back in here. Like if this is too thin, it's okay, because we're going to thin that out anyways. But what's most important is that this tip doesn't go too thin, because if it does go too thin, then our propeller is going to keep flying off. So it wants to just barely fit over the end. Okay, let's do our first test fit. Ooh, it's wanting to go through, but oh, there it is. Yeah, I just rocked it enough and we can get in. All right, so this is just right. Okay, now here is the real crux of it. So this is the most important part. So I do 2 tricks to this. I'll thin this out most of the way back, and then also you'll notice that I don't go all the way up and off this when I'm doing it. I'll go up to about here, and then I'll stop. And what this does is this is just making a bunch of curly cues to the same place. And there's two advantages to this. Now this is something that I developed on my own. And I never saw anybody else use this technique, but this is something I developed as a young boy. So the goal here is you bring it up to the same height all the way, and you're making it thin. See how I'm just making a bunch of these curlicues? And so what's going to happen is that as these go up, then it's creating a ledge. So I'm actually going to back cut these so it creates a step. And the step is okay. Alright, so now I want to cut all these hairs off. Now this is the part where gotta be a little careful, right? We don't want to wreck this after we've spent so much time in it. Not pushing hard. This isn't, we've come all this way. We don't want to force it. Giving it a little, some scrapes here, just taking off the high spots. Project Whimmy Diddle. So now, let's see if this works. Now the whole point is we need to get this so it barely goes over, and we need it to spin. Dude, that spins. That's a win. Alright. Okay, I'm going to take it back off. Alright, that was good. That was actually a great test. Now, we're going to put on the grooves. Now, on this, you need to hold it somewhere, and then you pick a good spot to put grooves in. I think we're going to put grooves in. Oops, sorry. Let's put this back down. Alright, so I'm going to hold it, have the handle be right in this section. And we're going to put the grooves from here to here. Now, these grooves are what creates the vibrations to make it dance. So let's start with the bottom groove. And these are simple. Just rock it. These aren't nothing special about this. You put the grooves in however you can. I'm using a lot of force, but I don't want to get it in my leg. It's just like notching a, if you're using an axe, it's just like notching the tree, like you're getting ready to fall it. Okay, there's one groove. You can see how I did it. Pretty simple, straightforward. Let's make the next notch. Back and forth. I had a woodshop teacher once said, little strokes fell big oaks. I thought he was a dork at the time, but you get older you realize he had something, he had a pretty good idea. Now, this doesn't matter, it just needs to be 45. Two notches, where are we at on time? 36. I didn't beat my half an hour, but man, I'm close. I'm pretty sure I'm going to beat 45. So I'm definitely going to be done in my hour of time. I'm not going to push it because you know what? This isn't a race, because you know what happens in race? In races, people crash. The last thing I want to do is crash this knife into my leg. So, this is not a when in doubt, gas it out time. This is, I know what I'm doing. Take your time. Don't get hurt. Okay. One other thing is if you get these little bumps too close to another, sometimes you'll play with it so much you'll knock these things off. But it takes a lot of force to do that, so I try to keep them a little bit apart. And usually I put about 12 of these things in here. Oh, I forgot about this technique. Rocking this thing works pretty good. I can get it in faster. And there's nothing special about this so long as they're all on the same side and pretty even. They don't have to be perfect. And some people, sometimes you'll find certain ones of these will work better than the others. You just happen to hit the right timing with the wood or the harmonics of the situation. You can still kind of see what I'm doing here. Yeah, see the notches going through it. There you go. Be cool if everybody goes out there and makes one of these for their son or daughter and bring a little bit of U.S. frontiersmanship back. You know, sometimes it's interesting. You think about people that came before us here to this great country. And yes, it was hard, and yes, everybody had trouble. And it was work, right? When you immigrate to a new place, it's work. It's not easy. There's no one's handing you free food. If you're coming here to the U.S. because you want free food and you don't want to work, I'm sorry. Go back where you came from. But I will also say, if you want to make this place better and arrive and have a chance where you can come here with nothing and your kids can end up with a college degree or start a new business, and yes, please come. We need you. We need people that want to work, that want to create, that are willing to take the risk. This is definitely a place for risk. The U.S., you can do anything if you're willing to take the risk, and if you understand the risk, you're willing to work hard. Okay, I'm done off that soapbox. I'll shut up now. Okay, no, I'm not done. So, some of you may or may not know, my wife happens to be Cambodian. And her family, when my wife was 5 years old, her dad was an acupuncturist in Cambodia. And a general came to him one day and said, my wife's sick, can you help? So, you know, like any doctor, their job is to make people better. Says, sure, I'll help you. So he helped. And it just so happened that, I guess they said he didn't want payment. You know, he said, no, this is for free. The general's wife had a stillborn inside of her. So she was sick, no one else could figure it out. So he fixed her. General was so happy. The next day he came to him and said, hey, you guys are on the list. So if you don't know about the list in Cambodia, that was the Khmer Rouge, and they ended up not liking the secular nature that the country was taking, and so they went and I think we need to do one more notch. They went and started killing anybody that could read or write, and it got so bad that they even killed people that wore glasses, even though they may not have been able to read, just because it was a sign of you needed to see to read. But to plant rice, you didn't need glasses, so you know, it was just a kind of that way. So what happened is they ended up losing a quarter of their population. So 25 out of every 100 people were killed in that country. And while that may have not have been a genocide, it was definitely, and it wasn't, but it was as, and there was less people overall than the Holocaust, but it was just as dramatic to lose that much of your population. Okay, we're getting close. We're getting close. 42. I've got 2 seconds left to make this, I've got 3 minutes left to make this work under 45 minutes. I know it's not a race, I keep saying that, but you know what? I don't care. All right, so next thing. Here's the last easy move. Okay, I'm cutting a triangle kind of that will match this, that will match the groove that we've just made. Take off the bark off the end. All right, so now I've got the handle. This was 42 minutes with a lot of talking. Here is the test of truth. Does this work? Ah, look at that. Spinning. Look at how that spins. And let's see, sometimes you can make it spin the other way. Oh, I think we can spin it the other way. Oh, look at that. First shot out. I haven't made one of these in 10 years. Go have fun with your friends. And this has been the Fun Uncle. Enjoy all of your own Whimmy Diddles. Oh, in Appalachia, they called it the Yeehaw Whammy Diddle. So, I call it Whimmy. I think it's cooler. Have a good one, guys.